Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Kelly, and I love what you do because I love great travel. Your business has probably been a little bit impacted, and I say that tongue in cheek. It's been a lot impacted by what's been going on for the past 18 months. The globe shut down. And this means people stopped traveling, and this impacted your business. So, my goal today is to figure out what's going to happen next, what you need to be aware of financially, what's going on economically, what your markets are thinking about, what your audience folks are thinking about, what your clients are thinking about, and figure out what next is going to happen in today's travel environment. Now, you're all great at what you do, or you wouldn't be doing it, but I think it's important that you understand the economics and the financial issues that your target audiences, your clients, are considering right now when they're looking to make travel decisions. And of course, I want to make sure you can grow your travel business moving into the future. So, how are our travel businesses affected by world events? What are people concerned about today? And what economic issues are affecting our clients and their travel? And you already know a lot of this, of course. This is not something new, that the global pandemic shut down a lot of travel for a lot of people. Business travel took a huge hit. What's interesting to me is that people are still spending a lot of time thinking about their finances, even people on the upper scale of these financial situations. So very quickly, I wanted to review with you what people are thinking about. For example, on a personal level, more than 3/4 of Americans, 77%, even people with money, report feeling anxious about their financial situation simply because it's an uncertainty issue. And you've heard the phrase, more money, more problems. Well, many of your clients are wildly successful, and that means they've got to make big decisions that are affecting more people. So finances and financial decisions are affecting a lot of people. 77% of Americans report feeling anxious about their financial situation. Again, even those people who are doing well, 58% say that they feel that finances and issues that are coming, for example, regulatory issues, industry issues, tax issues, increases in capital gains, increases in inflation, increases in personal taxes, these factors are dictating decisions that they are making that are going to affect their lives. And then 52% of people say that they have difficulty controlling their money-related issues, that they think about money, they struggle with it going to sleep at night, they think about it on weekends, and it is a source of concern. Now, because Americans are worried about their financial future, some of that means that they are not having enough money to retire. Maybe it means they're not able to keep up with the cost of living. Maybe for some people, it's managing debt issues. Whatever this looks like, financial stress causes people physiological issues. It causes them to feel fatigued. It causes people to have more difficulty concentrating at work. It causes people to not be able to go to sleep at night, or when they do go to sleep, they don't stay asleep, which means they might be seeing their doctor about, hey, I need some help going to sleep at night, or this is causing me to have not very restful sleep. And that, as you know, causes all sorts of other physical issues. Now, your cells can't regenerate the way it works. So all of these financial issues start to negatively impact different parts of people's lives, and it can negatively affect relationships. Now, some of you have maybe experienced some of these factors over the past 18 months. If you do, you're in good company, and it's perfectly normal. However, what I find interesting as well is that our top big picture goals in the past few years have not really changed significantly. That people say that their goals are to save for retirement as well as buy a house if they don't already have a house. And their short-term goals, you guessed it, it's all about great travel. People want to travel. Now, the good news for this is many of your clients have not really had a financial hardship when looking back at the last 18 months, that has not caused them a hardship. However, it has caused them to alter their travel plans. And for some of your clients who have maybe not become your clients yet, you have to remember that with 3 million people who have retired in the past 18 months, and again, part of this is just a math function, which works in your favor, that baby boomers are turning 65 at the rate of 10,000 per day, which means, do the math, if they're turning 65 and they're able to retire, many of them are looking at their 401ks, their SEP plans, their IRAs, and looking at the workplace and deciding, you know what I want to do instead? I want to travel. And they're setting themselves up to be your clients, where in fact, the past few years, they weren't your clients. So this is good news for you. And so as we get into your 2021 and 2022 vision, it looks in a couple ways like the value you provide is a confluence of 4 factors. First, it's the people part. How do you attract, client-wise, the right people? How do you retain them? How do you engage them? How do you manage them once they become clients? How do you mentor them for the trips they want to take and the adventures they want to have? And how do you help develop and evolve those relationships? And then how are you using the tools and technology that they have come to expect from you with their travel needs? Are you innovating? Are you providing the right advancements? Are you providing them with the right resources in a way that matters for them? We all know that one newsletter once a month just isn't enough anymore when people are considering travel needs and the travel changes that have come about. Now, you've also got to think about managing the uncertainty that is the travel industry right now. Now, for sure, we all know that we're going to see increased taxes. We're going to see higher inflation. Prices are going up. And I'm going to speak more about that, but think about that. A year ago, travel numbers and prices were down because people simply weren't traveling. The demand was not there. So the prices were down. So comparing certain travel numbers to a year ago isn't really the most accurate representation. Now, we also know that government spending has increased. We're going to talk about that, which means debt has increased, which means income taxes will go up, capital gains taxes will go up, and corporate taxes will go up. And part of the uncertainty that you can control, because you can't control those things, is what effects COVID is having on the travel industry. Where can people travel that is relatively easy? People want travel to be as easy as possible, and they want the adventures to be great. So what can you do to help people understand the travel requirements? Merely sending them to a website that has generic information is not enough. You need to give them specifics and make travel fun and interesting. And you've got to respond to your customer needs and wants. And that means reaching out to your customers and finding out what's important to them. And then from the business side for you, it's about business growth. And that means strategizing, optimizing, finding opportunities, and differentiating yourself and your travel adventures, which is what I like to call it, from other people's products and services that are in the marketplace. The marketplace is crowded, but that doesn't mean that you can't grab people's attention, give them a great experience, and have them coming back for more. Now, you've also got to run your business, and you've got to be smart about running your business. So part of this is giving you an economic picture of what's happening. And I know for some of you, economics was not your favorite course in high school or college. And I'm going to try to make it as fun and interesting for you as possible, but also give you a couple tools that you can use to grow your business right now, as well as understanding financial implications that will help you. Now, one of the resources that you have in this great program that Virtuoso has put together is the Money Smart Workbook. Now, the workbook goes with the book Money Smart, but the workbook will help you work through some things in your business and maybe your personal life so that your finances are off on the right track. And then the other great resource I have for you today, it's the 12-month Business Accountability and Success Planner. And this allows you to map out where you want to be success-wise for the next 12 months. And it allows you to figure out the goals you want to achieve every single month, what you want to do more of, what you want to do less of, and what you need to do in order to get there. Most of the work I get to do is about leadership and business strategy. And this is why I love what you get to do, because you are the BLT sandwich. You are the people call because they believe you, they like you, and they trust you with their travel needs. There's a whole new crop of people who are your target market, and they haven't been your audience before, but they have the ability, they have the wealth, they have the resources to take great travel trips, and they've now got the freedom and the time to start taking that travel. So your market is actually expanding right now. And what could derail it? Well, obviously the Delta variant, which started in India, and now it's in 98 countries, supposedly started in India. That's what the latest CDC says as of today. And it's now, as of today, in 98 countries. So this could be a problem as people maybe started planning for trips in 2021 and 2022 and maybe 2023, and now maybe they're hesitating. What you can do is provide them more and better information about travel issues and get back to the part where you are helping them see the possibilities. What else could derail? Well, some people are worried when they book online or they book with you, if everything is electronic, are things safe? Do they have to worry about cyber issues and ransomware? And are their credit cards safe? And if they pay for things and they're traveling to different countries, will those products and services and people show up as promised? So this whole idea of cybersecurity is a whole new level right now. In the past year, we've seen an increase of cyber attacks and ransomware. So one of the things that I'm encouraging all of my clients to think about right now is making sure that your cyber is exactly where it needs to be and that you convey that to your clients. And then the third aspect, as I talked about, is the Great Resignation. And yes, in this picture, I made sure he was holding two fingers up there, not just one, but the Great Resignation, which for you is actually a great help because it means more people have the resources and the freedom to travel. So let's get to the economics. Remember, the 2020 economy was great until COVID hit. We were looking at really good growth. We were on the heels of 2019, which had good growth. We were only down by about 2.3%, but our GDP for 2021 is looking very promising, and here's why. When we calculate GDP, it is our C, which is our consumer expenditures, plus our I, our business expenditures, plus our government, our G, plus our exports minus our imports. Now, for our purposes, if you sell travel packages inside the United States to people from a different country, technically that is an export because we are exporting that good or service to someone in a different country. The same is true when US people travel abroad. So because of that, that travel number does count as part of our GDP. Now, what the big part is here that you might probably be concerned about is the C, the consumer expenditures. In normal times, consumer expenditures is about 70% of our US GDP, our gross domestic product. But right now, that number is down. Now, again, for you, consumer expenditures are down, but consumer savings is up. What is up in our GDP as well? Government expenditures. In normal times, our government expenditures are about 16 to 17% of our GDP. Right now, it's closer to 30%. And that's not good because, again, we don't have the resources for that were saved up in order to make these expenditures, which is going to come back to us later in the terms of higher taxes and national debt increases and all of that. But right now, the economy is doing well because of all this extra stimulus, and travel is a huge part of it. So our GDP, as you can see from this chart, this comes from the Federal Reserve out of St. Louis. It did take a dip in 2020, but of course it is coming back in 2021. Now, passenger miles as revenue is really important to our GDP. And you can see from this graph, this is scheduled passenger flights for US air carriers, both domestic and international. So these are US carriers. Of course, big dip, and this is representative of other carriers across the planet as well. Big dip, of course, in 2020, and then it is starting to come back. So we need the revenue. And again, this is how we measure this in terms of revenue per passenger miles. Much of business travel, as you know, was shut down. For those of you who work with business travelers, you already know this. But it is coming back. And this is why this is important. Now, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, we also can track the airline fares in US cities on average. Now, keep in mind, we had already seen a decrease in fares, in prices. So when people say, well, gosh, it's more costly to travel now than it was a year ago. Well, yes, because again, there wasn't the demand a year ago. The prices are coming back, and that's actually good for the airlines, which means they can start to add more flights. They can start to add more routes. They don't have to pack people into planes. So that's actually good for your traveling clients. That fares are increasing. I know that doesn't sound like it, but keep in mind, we are still not back to where fares were way back in 2013. And even as recently as 2019, the fares are still lower than that. And this, of course, comes from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, we also want to make sure that our scheduled passenger flights for domestic and international are coming back. And how do we do this? Well, we have to spend money to make money. And this is where the investment sides come in. Our investments and what this looks like for you is probably pretty positive. So year to date, and I wanted to make this as current as possible to make sure that when you get to view this in the first week of August of 2021, that you've got the most current information I have. So right now it is the 23rd of July. And as of today, if you had invested just since January this year in the S&P 500, you would see a rate of return of 18.41% on that money. That's huge. We generally say that a good rate of return is maybe 4 to 6%. And this is why the GDP, again, with all of this money that is being thrown into the economy, is stimulating the stock market. So for you, again, your clients, they do have this wealth effect kicking in. Is it just the S&P 500? No, it's also the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Year to date, 23rd July, 2021, 14.5%. And again, we all know that past performance is no indicator of future performance. And yes, this could, sharply decline, but the wealth effect means that people who have money invested are doing well. And hopefully that's you too, in your 401ks, your SET plans, your IRAs, and all of those other things, all of your assets. But it means that your buying customers do have wealth, which is great news for you. Now, what this also means is we've got to be paying attention to world events. Now, tariffs. More countries, because the global pandemic did cost countries a lot of money. They're looking for ways to recoup this. Simply taxing their own citizens for some is not the only option. They're going to be imposing tariffs on goods that are coming into their country. So a tariff is a tax on an imported good. So in the United States, for example, if we import something from Germany, like a car, we're going to put a tax on that. That's an imported good into our country. Sometimes we tax goods leaving the countries, not nearly as often. But let's say our exported goods are being shipped over to Germany, then they put a tax on that, and that is a tariff on our goods as well. So what this does is it makes our exports more expensive when we're talking about goods for other countries. So I think we're going to see increased tariffs moving forward, and this will certainly affect travel. You probably are going to see increases that before you thought, wait a second, do I have to check on this? And the answer is yes, especially if you are booking foreign carriers, especially if you are booking in different countries. Now, trade, buying and selling goods and services and allowing countries to expand their market. Trade and travel go hand in hand. This is where we get to explore other countries, we get to experience other things, and this is where we get to experience goods and services that we might not otherwise have. So trading things back and forth is hugely important to economies continuing to go well. Now, very briefly, financial institutions are an issue, and here's why. Because many of your people may be worried about things like their loans, their financial investments, and things like that. Financial institutions, banks, credit unions, and investment houses deal with things like deposits and loans and investments and currency exchanges. You might see higher, again, fees for things like currency exchanges, because financial institutions are suffering a little bit because interest rates are so low. Interest rates in the United States, as well as in Europe right now, is really low because governments are trying to stimulate the economy in order to rebound from the global pandemic and everything that went with it. So because interest rates are very low, that's good if you are getting a loan, looking for a loan, or thinking about a loan, or you're refinancing a loan. But financial institutions, again, they are looking to recoup some of those losses in other areas. And so you might see that affect some currency exchanges. Now, let's talk about inflation. Inflation is the general upward movement of prices. So prices go up, that's inflation. And how we measure that is we take what's called a basket of goods. So let's say you go to a store in Wichita, Kansas, and you get a basket of 40 things that you buy, and it's the same men's shirt, size medium, same brand. It is the same deodorant, same size, same brand. It is the same gallon of milk, same size, same brand. And you buy it in Wichita, Kansas. Then we buy exactly that market basket in, say, Los Angeles. And then we buy that same market basket in North Carolina. Then we take that average and we look at it across the United States, again, for different areas. So what we're trying to measure is what goods and services are increasing in price. Now, keep in mind, that's inflation when prices go up, but there can also be deflation when prices go down. And this happened, of course, but it never gets as much press. So when the price of things goes down, people go, oh, okay, that's really good. But then when prices go up, people get very excited. So this is why it's important for us to know kind of the realities of what's impacting trade. We are seeing inflation, especially in 2021. So in February, year to date, since February of last year, we saw an increase of inflation in the general upward movement of prices of 1.7%. In March, 2.6%. Big jump in April, 4.2%. Another jump in May, 4.99%. Big jump in June, it just came out, 5.39%. So prices are going up. And then you think about, well, what are the prices going up on, if not airline tickets? Good question. And we can map this out. The Federal Reserve tracks this as well, and we can track it from a month, a year, 6 months, 5 years, 3 years, and right now we're at 5.39%. So what are the prices that we're seeing increases? So all items overall, it's at 5.39%. Food has only increased a little bit. I do see the prices of food increasing more as transportation issues continue to increase. We do have supply chain issues with food, as you know, and this is going to continue to be an issue on that. But energy, if you've filled up your tank at the gas station, you know that the price of gas has increased, and that is an issue. But it's other energy as well. And then all items not including food and energy has increased by a little bit less than 5%. So we know that this is an increase over a year, and that is going to increase some people's buying decisions. But when we see the energy issues, that feeds into, of course, transportation. So you're looking at airlines having to pay more for fuel. You are looking at transportation issues to get things in certain areas, which makes sense. All right, so let's talk about taxes. Taxes is everything we pay on income as well as other factors generally paid to the federal, state, county, or city. And there's about 40 taxes that we're all really familiar with: gas taxes and cigarette taxes and alcohol taxes and property taxes. All the taxes that we're accustomed to paying, room taxes, when you pick up a car at the airport, a rental car tax, the tax on your cell phone, as well as personal income taxes to the federal level, on the federal level, personal income taxes on the state level, if that applies, personal or state taxes in terms of sales. All of these taxes are a factor. Some of your clients may want to know what the tax implications are when they travel. People don't like surprises. Many of your clients are familiar, of course, with resort taxes when they go to certain properties. And they kind of view that as a tax, even though it's not really a tax, it's an added fee. But taxes are increasing again as states are struggling to keep up with having to pay out unemployment. Remember, unemployment is done by states, and that becomes an issue. All right, so federal taxes, the largest source of revenue for the United States government. And for example, in just fiscal year 2020, we collected about, $1.821 billion with the individual tax at 1.609 and corporate income tax, big numbers. All right, so this is a huge issue, and these numbers are going to continue to go up. I want to talk to you a little bit about trends, because it's interesting to me that economically, housing prices have continued to go up. Have we peaked out? I don't think so yet, but I do think it will peak out before 2022. So just for an example, at the beginning of 2021, the average home price was across the United States was $312,000, which meant that the average American who made the median income as almost $69,000, which meant the average American could afford to buy the average house in average America and be okay. Except 2 months ago, it jumped over $330,000. And as of today, it's over $350,000. So we've seen home prices dramatically increase. So what this means for you, it's a good time to buy a house in 2021, but it's also a good time to sell a house. It's a good time to buy a house, even though housing prices have gone up, because the interest rates are so low that a year ago, if you could afford to qualify for, say, a $500,000 house, now you can afford to qualify for a $620,000 house. If you're thinking about selling a house, it's a good time to sell because the housing prices have increased. So we're seeing a robust housing market, according to the National Association of Realtors. If you're a realtor or you know anybody who is, you're probably doing very robust business. Will this peak out? It will. Right now, we do have a desperate shortage of inventory for houses. And as you can see, the median, again, that's the middle. That's like when you're driving down the road and there's the median in the middle between you and the other lanes. That's the median. It's not the average, because the average, a really expensive house and a really poor house can skew that. The median is the middle. The median sale price of homes sold in the United States is continuing to go up, and you can see that. Meanwhile, the supply is down. This is basic supply and demand. When we have a decreased supply of something, and you would think that with housing prices up, that people would be more motivated to sell. And you would normally be right, except people have to live somewhere. I had a very real conversation this week with someone who said, in Idaho, he said, my home has actually increased by 3 times since I bought it just 10 years ago. I said, good for you. He said, what do? I said, nothing, because you got to live somewhere. It's still the house you want to live in. It's still the neighborhood you want to live in. It doesn't do you any good to sell that house and then buy another house that is just like it, because it's going to cost the same amount. It just doesn't make sense. So the concern here is that this, of course, is going to drive the price of rents for homes up. The people who are looking at rent, it's going to cost them more money because the supply of homes is down. We're not able to build as many houses as we should be. Construction numbers are still down, but the supply of homes is a concern. And apparently we all decided we didn't want to live in tiny houses. So anyway, let's look at energy and what that looks like. The trends for energy is important. And the reason is because we think that green energy, because it gets a lot of press, is going to be the solution for everything. So I just want to gently point out what our US energy consumption looks like and where it is. Folks, we are still using crude oil and natural gas and coal and nuclear energy and biomass. And then we get into the hydroelectrics and the wind and the biofuels and the solar and the geothermal. So it's important for us to understand where we are, and that basically windmills are not going to solve all of our problems overnight. So let's look at where the jobs are. What's up, what's increasing are anything in construction. We need construction workers. We need people who are able to build houses. We need plumbers and drywallers and concrete and people who can do structure and electricians and any kind of home improvement. What a lot of people figured out the last 18 months was, wow, I thought I liked my home when I bought it, but there's a lot of things wrong with it. Now that I've spent a lot of time in my house, I need to make some improvements. And this is what this looks like. Home improvements have been up. All of the big box home improvement stores, as well as local hardware stores, have seen upticks. You all are familiar with probably the price of lumber that skyrocketed for about 10 months. It's now coming back down. And the jobs that are associated with anything to do with construction, housing, and home improvement are in high demand. Now, what's still down? Retail. Why? Because many retail stores closed their brick and mortar doors. Those jobs are never coming back, and they found that they are able to sell online. So they closed down their brick and mortars. Some of them declared bankruptcy. It cannot all be blamed on COVID, but many stores did shut down and are finding that they are more profitable by going online. Travel and tourism still down. Why? Things still aren't open. I've been traveling pretty consistently since last November, and I've been traveling throughout all of the COVID issues. I'm very fortunate. I take all my vitamins. I am blessed to be pretty darn healthy, and I'm careful. But I've been at those events where they're just now opening up, or the hotel people will say, this is my first day back on the job in 9 months, or this is our restaurant's first day open. And there's some things to be worked out. Is it coming back? Yes. And again, a big determining factor right now is that Delta variant. So travel and tourism, the jobs are still down, but I am hopeful that once we get this under control and people get that consumer confidence back, again, consumer confidence, how they feel about traveling will drive what happens next. And the hospitality industry, of course, is part and parcel to the travel and tourism, and the jobs will come back. Last week, I was in a hotel in Okoboji, Iowa, the lakes of Iowa, and every single room was full. It was packed. Every single hotel was packed. So I love to see that, because it tells me that travel and tourism is coming back domestically, and it's wonderful to see. Now, wages and salaries, what we get paid for work. Yes, if you watch the news, you would think that nobody was working, and the reality is many people are working. Real income in the United States has increased. I know this is the simplest graph ever, and I know some of you are thinking, really, that's what economists do? They draw straight lines. It's kind of that way. In the United States for 2020, if you continued to work, your income actually went up. And if you are working by hour, your income actually went up by about $3 an hour. So the best numbers we have are from 2020 or 2019 heading into 2020. And so when you look at the increase in numbers, you're going to see when we finally get the numbers that 2020 and 2021 wages and salaries are actually up by anywhere between 4 and 6%, which means you're going to have to pay people more if you hire people. So our real median income is continuing to go up, and that's good news, again, for your clients, because you need people who can afford to travel. Unemployment numbers continue to hover right now. They're right under 6%. It hasn't been very exciting. Of course, part of this is the incentive for people to not work, when you can make more money by not working and collecting unemployment. Remember, as I said, unemployment is managed by states. So they do get some federal compensation and help financially from the federal government, but it's states that manage unemployment payments. And the unemployment payments matter because in the states that said, hey, we're not going to pay unemployment benefits after a certain date, and many states are cutting this off by the 1st of September, we are seeing people come back to work. I was in Las Vegas when they said, okay, the 1st of June, we're going to open everything back up again. And it was like the floodgates opened and people showed up, and the streets went from not being crowded to being very, very crowded. So I'm hopeful that unemployment numbers settle back down. Our goal for unemployment numbers in the United States is right around 3 to 4%. That's the natural rate of unemployment. That accounts for seasonal unemployment, frictional unemployment, where people just, you decide to move from Des Moines, Iowa to San Francisco, or maybe your spouse or partner takes a job, or you want to move cross country to be closer to the grandkids, so you change jobs, whatever that looks like. As well as cyclical unemployment. That's what we're seeing right now with the economy going up and down. And then there's another unemployment, which means that basically your job became obsolete, so you have to move on to something else. So the unemployment rate, of course, spiked in 2020. It is coming back down, and we are hopeful that that will continue to move forward. Okay. On the unemployment side, here's what is concerning to me as an economist is the labor force participation rate. Bottom line, we need more people to be in the labor force. There are many people who are discouraged workers where they were looking for jobs and now they're no longer looking for jobs. They've kind of given up looking for jobs. So that's part of that. Interestingly enough, before the pandemic hit, the biggest incursion of workers back in the workforce were people over 55. That has shifted. Now we need the millennials and the Gen Zers to step up on the employment side and get into the labor force. Our millennials and Gen Zers are underrepresented in the labor force as a percentage of their population. Part of this is because we're seeing when this all hit, more 18 to 29-year-olds move back home. We are at an all-time high of 18 to 29-year-olds moving back home with mom and or dad or both at 52% on a nationwide level. It is higher, interestingly enough, for our young men at 55% of those moving back home are male, and it is highest in the Northeast. And that may be a function of high costs of, say, apartments in the Northeast and the lack of rents. But we need more people in the labor force. So our labor force participation rate as a whole, we need more people to be working. That's it. Now, some of you might be worried about upskilling and retaining, and some of you might be worried about, are my clients going to go online and have a robot do their travel for them? Well, probably not. People still want the security, especially people who are taking great trips, of a voice on the other end and a trusted person. They want that BLT sandwich. So we are seeing more people investing in training and upskilling of their workers, but we're also seeing in different sectors, and yours is one of them, high-end travel, where people want a live person when they make that phone call. So there's a fun site called willrobotstakemyjob.com. You're welcome to go check that out for, just put in travel agents and see what happens, except for you. Most of your clients want to talk to you. So what do we do? What do we do if you're you? First, to grow your business, I want you to think about over communicating with your clients. And some of you are thinking, well, I don't want to bother my clients. Folks, I can't tell you enough that travel is a dream for many people, even experienced travelers. This is what they think about in their free time. They think, oh gosh, you know what? I haven't been to Machu Picchu in 10 years. Maybe I should go back. Or gosh, I've never been to Iceland. I wonder what's in Iceland. We want to dream. We want to think about what we're going to do when things get better. We want something to look forward to. So help us develop that dream. Over communicate with your clients and give us ideas so that we can think about it and talk about it over our dinner table. Over communicate with your suppliers. Let them know what your people are concerned about and see if they've got anything that you can share with your clients. Nurture the right clients. We've all made that mistake where we're nurturing the wrong clients. Spend your time with the people who want to be working with you. Know your industry really well. Know what the factors are, know what the considerations are. When I talk to a travel agent and I say something like, hey, are there any travel restrictions right now going to Belize? And off the top of their head, they kind of don't know, and they book people going to Belize all the time. It makes me think that they don't know their industry. So please know your industry. And then number 5, the most important, make it easy for your clients to buy and enjoy the travel experience with you. Anytime I look at a situation in a company where there should be more buying activity and there's not, I always wonder, and then I look at the process. Do we make the process easy for people to buy? Are we making it easy for people to find you? Are we making it easy for people to get your products and services and the experience, which is what they want? So who's your target market? And the answer there is the people with disposable income who like to travel. And many of these people are new clients because, again, 3 million people retired in the past 18 months. And these are all new clients for if you want that. Now, where's the wealth in the United States? Because these would be good target market people for you. The wealth by the top 1% has increased since 2019. And there's some talk about this, about the income inequality, but it's a math function. If you invest $1 million and you're making 18%, as we talked about earlier in the S&P 500, you're going to get a rate of return of 18%. If you invest $100, it's just a math function. So partly people get emotional about this. And as an economist, I just need to encourage you not to view it in an emotional level. It's just a math function. If you invest a certain percentage and you make a certain percentage, it's more than if you didn't start out with that much. I've written some articles called "It's Only the First Million That's Tough." And I kind of do believe in that. Once you get that first million, then compound interest takes over and it becomes easier to build wealth. So here's the share of total net worth held by the top 1% and you can kind of see the difference. The red is 2021. The blue is 2019 numbers, but you can kind of see how this looks, and the wealth has increased. So bottom line, your clients, if you have the right clients, can afford what you're selling. So what do you do to help your business? So number one, watch your own investments. Number one, make sure that you are investing in the right things that are right for you. Know your profits and your losses. If you need a quick profit and loss sheet, Productive Leaders /free has a free downloadable, nothing silly, no sign in profit and loss statement so that you can look at your numbers and make sure that you're running a good business. Have and use a business budget. And a lot of my businesses say, well, we've kind of been doing this for a while. We kind of know what this is. But there's nothing like putting the numbers on paper and knowing your numbers. Last year, during the height of the pandemic, I wrote a white paper called COVID-19 and the Future of American Business for 2021 and Beyond. And you're getting that today as well. And in that, identified 6 buckets of opportunities. And once I identified those buckets, I wanted to refine those. So I contacted with my team, which was Meredith Elliott Powell, Sam Richter, and Mark Hunter. And we wound up contacting about 60 CEOs. Hey, are these the right buckets of opportunity? What are we missing? What needs to be refined? And some of the best advice we got from CEOs was, you've absolutely got to know your numbers if you are going to grow a business. And that means having a budget, knowing what your profits and losses are every single month, and mapping it out. And the tools I've got for you do all the math for you. So I hope that helps. Negotiate with your suppliers, not in a way to maybe, cut prices or anything like that, but negotiate for flexibility, because right now, that is what I think is stopping a lot of travelers from booking travel. They're fine with putting up the money right now, but if there's another shutdown, will they get that money back? Because some people got burned, and that makes them more hesitant moving forward. So when I say negotiate with your suppliers, I'm talking about negotiating the flexibility. And then run a solid business, because travel numbers are an important part of the economy. So my goal with you is to help you run a solid business so that you can flourish, but also help the economy flourish. Now, how can you do that? Very quickly, some tactical things that I want to share with you that I hope help, because it's not just financial awareness and economics, it's also business growth and running a good business. This is the 5-minute business plan. So very quickly, sit down. I do it with a glass of wine. You can do it with coffee, whatever works for you. And think about who we do and for what. So we sell or provide to people who what, and make that as clear as possible. And then think about who you make life better for. And this helps you run your business, but it also helps you define your opportunities for business. Who do we help specifically? We increase their travel enjoyment, their travel adventure. We decrease their travel stress, their travel uncertainty, their concerns. We increase their safety, whatever that looks like. Profits and financials. What do we charge? How do we get paid? When do we get paid? And what else can we do in order to enhance that bottom line? And then how do we become famous? How do people find out about us? Are we asking our delighted clients for referrals? What does that look like? And when somebody comes back from a great trip, do we send them a welcome home note? Do we call them? Do we send them a personal thank you note? Not just the canned ones that come out of the machine, but do we actually care about that? Do we call them up and said, hey, what could have been better? Or what did you really like? Or what worked out really well? And do you know of anybody else who is like you? One of the best lines I ever heard is when someone said, hey, I love working with you and people like you. So do you know of anybody else who would like to experience travel like you do? And then climbing the mountain of management. One of the things I talk to my business people all about, especially my agents, my insurance agents, my real estate agents, and travel agents, is you can't do everything yourself. So focus on the things that you do best and outsource a lot of the rest. And you can find great services, VA services, virtual assistant services. You can find people online, but make sure you're not spinning your wheels doing the unimportant things. My friend Neen James, and you may be familiar with her, in her book, Folding Time, she says we can't do everything. So we have to focus on what's most important. And that is a great reminder when you think about outsourcing things. You think, well, do I outsource this or should I do it? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. If you can outsource it, you might want to think about it. And then top of the world success. What defines success for you? What does this look like? And what would make you feel happy and content and really motivated by your business? And then very quickly, if you need some help with a 5-minute growth plan, let's say you're really taking a hard look at your business. And for many of us, the last 18 months took a big spotlight and it put it on our business. Work through this 5-minute business growth plan. Now, the business growth plan is designed to help you identify some areas where you might want to improve. So my gentle thought, and you're getting this as a totally free download in the package that you get, and it's in the 12-month planner, is go through this and identify the top 3 things that if you improve those 3 things would give you the best return on your investment for your business. And then just focus on those things. Don't focus on everything. Many of my business people right now are struggling because they see so many areas where they feel they need to improve that, of course, they're paralyzed into doing absolutely nothing. So pick 3 of the things in this list, focus on that, make those your goals moving into 2022, and watch your business increase. So these are the resources you get. This is where you go to get this. It's the 12 months of business growth and resources. It also includes the COVID-19 and the future of American business. If you need a business plan template, maybe you're really redoing some things and rethinking things, this is there for you as well. I thought it might be helpful. With this are a variety of my 5-minute plans. Many of them are included in the 12-month business and accountability workbook. It's about 55 pages. And at the end of every month, you get a 5-minute plan to kind of work on in case you need the prompts for how to grow your business. But what I specifically want to invite you to think about is your 5-minute business plan, that 5-minute vision plan, what your vision looks like moving forward, and then looking at your goal setting plan and making sure that you are attacking the things that are going to give you the most ROI and help you serve your customers the most. So you're going to get this from Virtuoso as well as from this site if you choose to grab this in a separate way, because many of you might be looking at this from your computer and you don't want to jump off your computer. So this is how you do it. In the 12-month plan, this is how we plan out the month. As I talked about in the beginning, you write out your goals for the month, and ideally you share this with your team. And then you map out what you want to do more of this month, what you want to do less of this month, and then what you want to resolve, delegate, streamline, and complete. And then you want to make sure that you are contacting 3 people for advice, just making sure that you're staying current. This can also be your suppliers. It can be other Virtuoso people. It can be other people in your industry. And then reach out to 3 clients per month. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but if I make it 4, then it sounds like 1 per week. And for some people, that sounds like a lot. But reach out to your clients and just check in on them. Don't be salesy, not necessarily, but just be informative and educational and just check in on them. And then grade the month and then figure out, could you have made the month better? In some cases, the answer is no. And all of a sudden you say, well, it was an okay month. And then you say, wait a minute, it's actually a pretty good month. I'm feeling pretty fabulous about it. And that bumps it up to a 5 instead of maybe a 3. And then map out what you and the team are grateful for, and then figure out what you learned.